What happens when a Hollywood icon known for her calm precision walks onto a daytime stage famous for its sharp opinions and refuses to smile through the tension? What happens when years of unspoken frustration collide with live television, bright studio lights, and an audience that can feel the shift in the air before a single word is spoken? Before we go any further, if you love cinematic celebrity stories like this, subscribe to the Narration Show right now. Hit like, drop a comment, and let us know you're here, because this moment is one you won't forget. The applause starts the way it always does. Polite, warm, predictable. Scarlett Johansson steps out from backstage with practiced confidence, her posture straight, her expression composed, but her eyes give her away. There's something sharper there today, something guarded. She takes her seat, crossing her legs slowly, smoothing her jacket, offering a brief smile to the audience. It's the kind of smile that looks flawless from a distance, but up close, it feels like armor. Across the table, Whoopi Goldberg leans back slightly, hands folded, watching Scarlett with a look that's hard to read. Not hostile, not welcoming, just alert. Like she already knows this conversation won't stay on the rails. The hosts exchange their usual pleasantries. Laughter bubbles up. The audience relaxes. For a moment, everything feels normal. Safe. Controlled. But tension doesn't announce itself loudly. It seeps in. Scarlett answers the first question smoothly, talking about her latest film, her process, her love for storytelling. Her voice is calm, almost soothing. The audience nods along. Applause comes easily. Yet with every sentence, there's an undercurrent, as if she's circling something she hasn't decided whether to say out loud. Whoopi jumps in, her tone casual but edged with curiosity. "You've been very vocal lately about how the industry treats women," she says, eyes locked on Scarlett. "Do you think Hollywood's actually changing, or just pretending to?" It's a fair question. A safe one. On paper. Scarlett inhales. Not deeply, but deliberately. "I think," she begins slowly, "that sometimes people mistake talking for listening." The studio shifts. It's subtle. A few audience members lean forward. One of the co-hosts glances sideways at Whoopi. Scarlett continues, her voice steady but firmer now. "We talk a lot about progress, about fairness, about voices being heard. But when someone actually says something uncomfortable, that's when you find out how much room there really is." Whoopi raises an eyebrow. "Are you saying people don't want honesty?" "I'm saying," Scarlett replies, turning slightly toward her, "that honesty is welcomed until it challenges the narrative." A soft murmur ripples through the audience. This isn't promotional chatter anymore. This is something else. Whoopi chuckles lightly, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "Well, narratives matter. They shape how people understand the world." Scarlett nods. "Exactly. And that's why who controls them matters too." The silence that follows is brief, but heavy. One of the co-hosts tries to step in, but Scarlett doesn't stop. She's still calm, still composed. "But now, there's momentum. I've sat on sets, in meetings, on panels," she says, "where I was praised for being strong, as long as I didn't push too hard, as long as I didn't make anyone uncomfortable." She glances toward the audience, then back to Whoopi. "And I've watched women get labeled difficult for doing the same things men get applauded for." Whoopi leans forward now. "That's not new," she says. "We've been fighting that for decades." "I know," Scarlett replies quietly. "And I respect that. Deeply. But sometimes it feels like when younger women speak up, we're told to be grateful instead of honest." The temperature in the studio drops. The audience goes silent, not because they are bored, but because they are bracing. Whoopi's voice hardens just a touch. "Are you suggesting that voices like mine are part of the problem?" Scarlett pauses. For the first time, she hesitates. You can almost see the calculation behind her eyes, the awareness that millions are watching, that this moment will live forever online. "I'm suggesting," she says carefully, "that power doesn't disappear just because someone once fought against it." A sharp inhale echoes from somewhere in the crowd. Whoopi straightens. "So now experience is power." "Experience becomes power," Scarlett answers, "when it decides who gets challenged and who gets protected." The words land hard. One of the hosts nervously laughs. Another adjusts her papers. The director doesn't cut away. The cameras stay locked in, knowing exactly what they are capturing. Whoopi's smile returns, but this time, it's tight. "I've spent my life speaking truth," she says. "I don't need a lecture on that." Scarlett meets her gaze without blinking. And I'm not lecturing, she replies. I'm speaking from my own truth. There's a difference. The audience begins to clap, hesitant at first, then louder, divided between support and shock. Scarlett's hands tremble slightly in her lap now. She notices, slows her breathing. I've stayed quiet before, she admits. I've smiled through moments that didn't sit right because I didn't want to seem ungrateful, or dramatic, or disrespectful. She looks directly at Whoopi. But silence has a cost. The room feels smaller, tighter, like the walls themselves are listening. Whoopi exhales slowly. So what is it you want, Scarlett? Scarlett doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she looks out at the audience, at faces frozen between fascination and discomfort. I want conversations that don't end when things get uncomfortable, she says. And platforms that don't flinch when someone challenges them. The applause this time is louder, more confident. But it's not unanimous. The camera cuts briefly to the crowd, some nodding, some whispering, some staring wide-eyed at the stage. Scarlett turns back to the table, her expression resolute now. Whatever line she was afraid to cross, she's already crossed it. And everyone in that studio knows it. Because this was never just an interview. This was a reckoning, and it had only just begun. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It lingers in the studio like static electricity, crawling across the table, settling into every breath. Scarlett can feel it in her chest, tight, controlled, unmistakably real. She shifts slightly in her chair, aware now of every camera angle, every producer holding their breath behind the monitors. Whoopi doesn't look away. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Live television stretches time in strange ways. 5 seconds feels like a minute. A minute feels like a confrontation etched in stone. Whoopi breaks the silence first, her voice slower now, measured. You know, she says, this table has always been about conversation. About disagreement. We don't shy away from that. Scarlett nods. I believe that, she replies. That's why I'm here. There it is again, that calm certainty. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Just firm. One of the co-hosts clears her throat. Scarlett, do you think sometimes intent gets misunderstood? That people hear criticism where there isn't any? Scarlett turns to her briefly, grateful for the opening but unwilling to retreat. Intent matters, she says. But impact matters more. Especially when you have a microphone. Whoopi's fingers tap once against the table. A small sound. Sharp. So you think I misuse mine? The audience murmurs again, louder this time. This is no longer abstract. Names are no longer implied. Scarlett doesn't flinch. I think sometimes questions shape answers, she says. And sometimes they corner people into defending themselves instead of expressing themselves. Whoopi lets out a short laugh. This is television. That's part of the job. Scarlett's voice softens, but only slightly. And so is responsibility. That word hits harder than expected. Responsibility. The room feels divided now. Some audience members lean back, arms crossed. Others sit forward, eyes bright, sensing history in the making. Whoopi tilts her head. Let me ask you something, she says. Do you think you're being brave right now, or do you think you're being protected by your status? A ripple of shock runs through the crowd. Scarlett blinks once. That question found its mark. She exhales slowly. Both can be true, she admits. Privilege doesn't erase fear. It just changes how visible it is. The honesty disarms the room. Even Whoopi pauses, studying her more closely now, not as an opponent, but as a person. Scarlett continues, her voice quieter but more intense. I know my name opens doors. I know my mistakes are forgiven faster. That's exactly why I feel obligated to speak when something feels wrong. She glances down briefly, then back up. Because there are people watching who don't get that grace. The audience claps again, stronger this time. Someone whistles. A producer off-camera gestures urgently, reminding the hosts of time. But no one at the table is ready to move on. Whoopi leans back, crossing her arms. You're asking for accountability, she says. But accountability goes both ways. I agree, Scarlett replies immediately. That includes me. The air shifts. This isn't about winning anymore. It's about exposure. One of the co-hosts tries to redirect. Scarlett, earlier you mentioned being labeled difficult. Can you talk about that? Scarlett hesitates. This is more personal territory. The kind that doesn't fit neatly into sound bites. There were moments, she says slowly, when I questioned whether speaking up was worth the backlash. Meetings where I was told I was too intense. Interviews where my words were reframed into something harsher than I meant. Her eyes flicked to Whoopi again, not accusatory, but pointed. Sometimes by people who didn't ask follow-up questions. They just assumed. Whoopi straightens. Are you saying I assume things? I'm saying, Scarlett responds, that assumptions carry weight when they come from respected voices. The studio goes quiet. Even the crew seems frozen. Whoopi's jaw tightens. Respect is earned, she says. And I earned mine by not being quiet. Scarlett nods. I know. And that's why this matters. She leans forward slightly now, mirroring Whoopi's posture. Equal footing. Because when someone who fought to be heard questions someone else's voice, it echoes louder than you might realize. A sharp gasp comes from the audience. This is the line. Everyone feels it. Whoopi's eyes narrow, not in anger, but in something closer to hurt. You think I don't want women to speak? No, Scarlett says quickly. I think you want strong voices. I just think sometimes strength doesn't look the way we expect. Silence again. Heavy. Complex. The co-hosts exchange looks, unsure whether to intervene or let the moment breathe. The director lets it run. Whoopi exhales, long and slow. You know, she says, when you sit in this chair long enough, you hear every criticism. Every accusation. People forget we're human too. Scarlett's expression softens. I don't forget that, she says. That's why I didn't want this to be an argument. Yet here we are, Whoopi replies. Scarlett offers a small, almost sad smile. Because sometimes honesty feels like conflict. The audience applauds again, less explosive now, more reflective. Whoopi looks down at the table for a moment, then back up. So what do you want people watching to take from this? Scarlett doesn't rush her answer. She looks into the camera now, directly at the viewers at home. I want them to know, she says, that speaking up doesn't mean disrespect. That disagreement doesn't mean division. And that discomfort can be the beginning of growth, not the end of conversation. The words hang in the air, unresolved. Whoopi studies her, then gives a slow nod. Fair enough, she says. But don't mistake challenge for hostility. Scarlett meets her gaze. I won't. As long as challenge doesn't silence. The audience erupts, not chaotic, but intense. Applause mixed with murmurs, cheers tangled with uncertainty. The cameras pull back slightly, catching the full table now. Smiles are strained. Energy is charged. No one is pretending this was just another segment. And somewhere beyond the studio walls, social media is already lighting up, clips being cut, captions being written, sides being chosen. Because this conversation didn't end at the table. It was only getting louder. The commercial break comes and goes, but it doesn't cool anything down. If anything, it sharpens the edges. When the cameras roll again, the smiles return, but they are thinner now, stretched over something unresolved. Scarlett sits a little straighter, as if bracing. Whoopi adjusts her glasses, eyes focused, posture firm. This isn't recovery mode. This is continuation. The audience settles, though a low hum of anticipation hangs in the air. Everyone knows this segment won't drift back to movie promotions or light banter. That door closed the moment honesty entered the room. Whoopi speaks first, her voice steady but quieter than before. People watching might think this is personal, she says. So let's be clear. This isn't about egos. This is about perspective. Scarlett nods slowly. Perspective shapes reality, she replies. Especially when millions are listening. One of the co-hosts leans in carefully. Scarlett, have you ever felt misrepresented on a show like this? The question lands gently, but it opens something raw. Scarlett exhales, her shoulders dropping just a fraction. Yes, she says. More than once. A murmur runs through the audience. There were times, she continues, when I walked off a set and thought, that's not what I meant. Or worse, that's not who I am. Whoopi tilts her head. And you think that's intentional? I think it's convenient, Scarlett says. Conflict travels faster than nuance. The room reacts. A few people clap instinctively. Others shift uncomfortably. Whoopi responds quickly. So you think this show creates conflict? Scarlett chooses her words with care. I think it reflects it. But reflection can distort. The tension spikes again, sharper now because it's surgical, precise. Whoopi's voice firms. We ask hard questions here. And I respect that, Scarlett replies. But hard questions deserve space to breathe. Not just headlines. A beat. Then another. Whoopi leans forward. You're asking for grace. I'm asking for fairness, Scarlett corrects. Grace is optional. Fairness is essential. The audience reacts audibly now, some applauding, some gasping. A few heads turn, checking reactions around them, as if trying to measure which side the room is on. Whoopi's lips press together. You know, she says, I've watched people weaponize vulnerability. Scarlett's brow furrows. I'm not doing that. I didn't say you were, Whoopi replies. I'm saying I've seen it. Scarlett's voice lowers. So have I. For the first time, there's a shared note between them. Something unspoken, briefly aligned. Scarlett continues, more personal now. There's a pressure to perform strength, to never hesitate. But sometimes the strongest thing is admitting you're tired of being misunderstood. Her eyes glisten, not with tears, but with restraint. The audience goes quiet. Completely. Whoopi watches her closely. And you think this misunderstanding comes from women like me? Scarlett shakes her head. I think it comes from systems we're both inside. The answer diffuses some of the heat, but not all of it. One co-host jumps in, voice gentle. Do you feel heard right now? Scarlett pauses. That question hits deeper than any accusation. I feel seen, she says carefully. Heard is still in progress. A soft wave of applause follows, more empathetic than explosive. Whoopi nods slowly. That's fair. Then she adds, but understand this. When you speak, people listen. When I speak, people judge the weight of decades. Scarlett meets her gaze. And when you speak, she says, people assume authority. That's power too. The word hangs there again. Power. The audience reacts immediately, some cheering, some visibly tense. Whoopi doesn't respond right away. She looks out at the crowd, then back at Scarlett. Power comes with scars, she says. Scarlett nods. So does silence. Another ripple through the room. The co-hosts exchange glances, realizing this has gone far beyond their planned rundown. No cue cards can contain this. Whoopi finally speaks again, quieter. Do you know how many times I've been told to soften my tone? Scarlett answers without hesitation. More than I can imagine. Then don't assume I don't understand, Whoopi says. I don't, Scarlett replies. I just don't want understanding to turn into gatekeeping. The audience audibly reacts, and oh ripples through the seats. Whoopi's expression hardens for a split second, then eases. Gatekeeping implies intent. Sometimes impact matters more than intent, Scarlett says again, echoing her earlier words. The symmetry isn't lost on anyone. The camera is cut briefly to the audience, faces intense, conflicted, captivated. People know they are watching something rare, two powerful women refusing to collapse into caricatures, refusing to yield easy ground. Whoopi exhales, long and controlled. You're challenging me on my own platform. Scarlett answers quietly. I'm trusting it. That line lands harder than any raised voice could have. A pause. Then applause. Slow at first, then fuller, warmer. Not because the tension is gone, but because respect has entered the room. Whoopi nods once. All right, she says. Then let me challenge you back. Scarlett straightens. I'm listening. Whoopi looks directly into the camera now. When you speak about fairness, make sure you leave room for history. Don't flatten the road others walked before you. Scarlett considers this. Then she nods. And when you speak about history, she replies, leave room for the voices still trying to find their footing. The exchange is electric, but grounded. No shouting. No insults. Just two truths colliding. The audience rises into applause again, louder now, more unified. Even those uncomfortable can't look away. The segment clock is running out. Producers are signaling. The hosts know they need to wrap. But no one feels finished. Because whatever this started as, interview, discussion, confrontation, it has become something else entirely. A live, unfiltered moment where neither side walked away untouched. And as the cameras begin to pull back, one thing is clear. The final word hasn't been spoken yet. The applause continues even as the cameras fade out of the studio shot, rolling over the table like a slow, relentless wave. Some people stand. Others remain seated, stunned, hands frozen mid-clap. The energy in the room is no longer sharp. It's heavy, charged with the aftermath of something that can't be undone. Scarlett exhales for what feels like the first time in an hour. Her shoulders relax just slightly, but her face remains serious. Whatever just happened, she knows it will follow her far beyond this stage. Across from her, Whoopi sits quietly, eyes forward, expression unreadable. Not defeated. Not triumphant. Just reflective. The host thanks Scarlett, her voice carefully neutral, and the show moves on, but the audience doesn't. Whispers ripple through the seats. Phones are already out. Clips are being recorded. Someone in the front row shakes their head in disbelief. Someone else wipes away a tear. Backstage, the mood is different. Quiet. Almost reverent. A producer rushes past Scarlett without speaking, eyes wide. Another murmurs, "That was something." Scarlett nods politely, but inside, her heart is still racing. She replays every sentence, every pause, every look. She wonders which words will be taken out of context, which ones will be turned into headlines. Across the hall, Whoopi pauses before heading to her dressing room. A staffer asks if she's okay. Whoopi gives a small nod. "I'm fine," she says. But her voice carries weight. Thought. Something unsettled. Within minutes, the internet explodes. Clips flood social media, short, sharp, stripped of nuance. Scarlett Johansson calls out Whoopi Goldberg live. Whoopi shut down on her own show. Comment sections ignite. Some praise Scarlett for her composure, calling her brave, articulate, fearless. Others accuse her of disrespect, of challenging a legend without earning the right. Whoopi's defenders push back just as fiercely, reminding everyone of the battles she's fought, the doors she opened. Hashtags trend. Opinions harden. Sides form. Entertainment outlets scramble for experts, body language readers, cultural commentators. Everyone wants to decode the moment. Was it generational? Was it ideological? Was it personal? Scarlett releases a short statement later that evening. Calm. Measured. She says she's grateful for open dialogue, that difficult conversations are necessary, that growth comes from listening as much as speaking. She doesn't mention Whoopi by name. Whoopi addresses it the next day, briefly, on air. She says conversations are supposed to be uncomfortable sometimes. That silence never changed anything. That respect doesn't mean agreement. Neither woman apologizes. And that, somehow, becomes the loudest message of all. The audience reactions continue to pour in. Emails to the network. Messages to the show. Some viewers say they felt seen for the first time. Others say they felt betrayed. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. They couldn't stop watching. Because this wasn't a viral clip built on insults or shouting. It was something rarer. Two powerful voices standing their ground, refusing to simplify themselves for comfort. Weeks later, the moment is still referenced. Panels, podcasts, articles dissect every line. Media students study the exchange. Fans replay it, noticing new details each time. The way Scarlett steadied her hands, the way Whoopi paused before responding, the silence that spoke louder than applause. And in that silence, something shifted. Not a victory. Not a defeat. A crack in the surface that let something honest through. So now, the question turns to you. Who do you think made the stronger point? Was Scarlett right to challenge power where she saw it? Or was Whoopi right to defend the weight of experience and history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading every single one. If this story pulled you in, if you felt that tension, that emotion, that moment where everything could have gone wrong but didn't, make sure you subscribe to the Narration Show. Like this video, share it with someone who loves real, explosive celebrity moments, and join us for more cinematic stories where nothing is ever just an interview. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable confrontations aren't about winning. They're about being heard.